someone who has cancer or has had cancer, you've watched them suffer, maybe even lay in a hospital bed, be hooked up to a pump, and just get painkiller after painkiller in order to subside the pain. Well, there's a way we could stop this. There's millions of Americans suffering all over, but if medical marijuana was legalized, they wouldn't have to suffer. Because medical marijuana is also, it's good for pain, nausea, vomiting, seizures, and appetite loss. So it could also help those with HIV, epilepsy, and multiple sclerosis. So they wouldn't have to suffer anymore. They wouldn't just be told that, oh, it's gonna hurt. Like, you have cancer, you're gonna get chemo, you're gonna get radiation, you're gonna be sick. Sorry about it. And some argue that the reason medical marijuana shouldn't be legalized is because it's not FDA approved, and that there's other drugs out there that are FDA approved, but those drugs basically just turn them into walking zombies, and they're just in this painkiller kind of coma-like state. And Dr. Stacy says these standard drugs do nothing to manage the extreme symptoms associated with the disease or the intense cancer treatment. So they're not really helping them, they're just trying to get them out of their own body almost. And another argument is it'll increase recreational use, but 28 states, including Washington, D.C., have legalized it, and they've seen very little issue with it. Recreational use has decreased because people are actually getting a prescription that need it for the medical purposes of it. And another one is the health, because if you smoke it, it's obviously going to hurt your lungs. But suffering through chemo and lungs, and I don't think you shouldn't be able to say to someone, oh, well, that's going to hurt your lungs, so you should have to suffer through this pain. That should be their own decision. If they think that they'd rather have a lung issue, it would be better than having to suffer. And besides that, it doesn't have to be smoked. It can be digested. You can eat it. It's not going to hurt your lungs any. And it's also just a violation of human rights to tell someone that they have to suffer. They can't just smoke something that'll make them feel better. It's not going to get them high. It's just going to make them feel better. There's no reason that it shouldn't be legalized, because right now the only reason Indiana hasn't legalized it is because they're not allowed to do research because it's a Section 1 drug. Section 1 drugs also include heroin and acid. Marijuana. And there's a little girl was in the hospital and she almost died because she couldn't get the drug that would help her seizures. Her name was Charlotte Webb. When she was 4, we were all running outside and playing and gabbing our parents' ears off and stuffing our face with whatever we wanted. When she was 4, she couldn't walk, she couldn't talk, and she couldn't eat because she was having 300 grand mal seizures a week. 300. A grand mal seizure usually lasts, well, the convulsions last about 3 minutes, but you also lose consciousness. And you don't regain consciousness for half an hour to an hour. So 300 times out of a week, she was unconscious for an hour. And one day, she took a turn for the worst and her heart stopped beating. Her mom had to do CPR on her, and when the ambulance got there, they took her to the hospital and they basically said there's nothing we can do for her. She's already too far gone, we can't do anything. So they suggested putting her in a coma because her body just couldn't take it anymore. Her mom wasn't going to put her 5-year-old daughter in a coma. So she decided to go out and she went and bought marijuana. And she altered it at her house in an in-home lab so it had a low THC level. So her daughter stopped having seizures altogether once she started smoking it. She didn't have to suffer anymore. She was done. She wasn't high because the THC is what makes you high. But the herb of actually marijuana makes you feel better in general. And this is how Charlotte's Web marijuana started. Her mom made a marijuana to where it had low THC and people could smoke it for medical purposes. So I encourage all of you to understand the effects of medical marijuana, because when I first started this speech, I was anti, until I read about it and got the information on it. So I encourage you all to do the same.
I had a friend who had cancer, but she went to Ohio for treatment. If medical marijuana was legalized in Ohio but was an Indiana resident, would she still be allowed to have the medical marijuana even though it was illegal in her residency state?
She wouldn't be able to bring it back to Indiana because it's still an illegal drug. That's kind of like heroin being legalized there and bringing it over here. Can't do it.
When you lower the THC in marijuana, did that affect the addictiveness of it?
Well, you're not getting the high from it, so you're not getting that out of mind feeling. You're just kind of getting better. It's helping soothe you more.
So then what if you're an Ohio resident and it's legal, and then you go to Indiana and live with your parents? Can you get in trouble for having it in Indiana?
Yes.
Even if you have your license?
Yes, because it's illegal.
So even though it's not legal, I mean, it's legal in Ohio and you're a resident in Ohio.
Well, I imagine bringing it over here would be illegal.
Do you know how many states medical marijuana is legal?
28.
So when Charlotte's mom changed the marijuana and made it THC free, did she add anything that could also affect her child's health? I guess what I'm asking, if you take the THC out, are you affecting it in a way that could affect your health?
The THC is all the chemicals in it. So
So
she's
it's
taking out the
just-
chemicals of it. It's just an herb